Building a Tenor Guitar, Part 17 at randallprice.com. Next I'll do this upper cross brace. I've made a line as to where I want that cut off to length. So I'll cut that to length. Two ends have a scallop cut into them. I'll do that scallop, and then the sides, similar to the brace on the back, just have a simple round over, and the sides stay parallel, so I'll do that next. I've cut this cross brace to length. It doesn't show a profile here, but I want this to be a scallop, so this will be roughly shaped in a scallop like this. I want it to be 1/8 inch high out on the ends. I've just taken an 1/8 inch gauge block and made marks on both sides out towards the end. Scallops I want to start at these points on the blueprint, so I'll just make marks where those start. Transfer those across the top. I'll transfer them down the sides. I'll cut out the base material on the bandsaw. The scallop I'll do on the stationary belt sander. I'm taking a little piece of hardboard and cut it out to the profile of the scallop that I want on this brace, and I just lay it alongside the brace and trace that on both ends. So there's that scallop. While I'm over here, I'll go ahead and make that round over. There's the round over. These finger braces, which go at a perpendicular to the X braces, are really the only brace on top that does not intersect with either the side or another brace. So this end is free out here on the top, and you can see on the profile at this end that it actually goes down to a point. It goes down to nothing. This side still has a slight height to it, maybe about 1/16 of an inch, where it butts against the X brace. I'll cut out these two. There's a finger brace here, there's a corresponding finger brace on the other side. I'll cut those out and scallop those similar to as you see here in the blueprint. Just like that upper brace, I'll mark where the scallop begins on those. I'm just going to mark a 1/16 inch depth on both ends of this finger brace. That's where I'll stop my cut. That'll be a good dimension for the rough cut. And as I said, the one end that blends into the back of the top, I'll wait to bring that down to that point after it is glued up. I'll go ahead and cut this piece out on the bandsaw, and then I'll use that as a pattern to cut out the other piece. I have two more braces yet to cut, and these are the two lower tone bars. To cut this angle, just taking my bevel gauge and set it to that angle and mark that out on a piece of my brace stock for the tone bar, and I'll just cut that angle to size. Looks good. I'll just cut it to length. Next I'll profile and scallop these two tone bars. I've been working on profiling this tone bar, and you can see here's one I have not worked on yet. Let me get it right beside there. The base of this one is the same thickness as that base, but as you can see the top edge is much thinner, so I've kind of tapered and curved this in on both sides, and I used a combination of techniques for that. I started over on the belt sander and I sanded just a slight bevel into that. Then I took it over to the plane and started planing it a little bit, and just as I did the round over on some of the smaller braces, I just took that plane at a 45 and then a 22.5 degree and slowly rounded that over, and then put it on just my hand block sander that I used on the other braces to get it down to this size. So I'll try to get some of those techniques shown here on the video. Okay, first of all, I took my 1/16 inch gauge block and made a couple parallel lines, a 1/16 of an inch in from each side of this brace, so when I sand it, it gives me kind of a reference to see how far I've sanded it down. Okay, I've gotten fairly close to that 1/16 of an inch mark that I made. Now I'll go over to the block plane and plane those sides down a little bit. Okay, I have my block plane just clamped to my bench top, so what I'm trying to do here is take out some of that unevenness that I had over there on the sander. As you can see, I'm just about down to that line. So I'm going to switch over to my sanding block. This top is rough. I don't really want to take too much off the top. I want to keep as much height as possible. I'm going to plane this a little bit just to get it smooth. So those two are looking pretty good. Once they're on the top, I can do any finish sanding or tuning up that I need to do, but those are pretty good to be glued up in place. Now the major job will be doing the same thing for these X braces. I need to cut them to length and then profile the sides and scallop the ends, similar to as I did with these tone bars. And I'll use the very same techniques to do the X braces, except I want to stay a little ways away from this center area, so I don't want to start tapering them until maybe this far back. I want to leave as much structure here as possible to give support to that joint. So I reduced the width a little bit there on the belt sander. It's kind of hard or difficult to do with having to stay back a little bit, so I'll go over and work with the plane and or sanding block to see if I can get these down a little bit further. That's not too bad. So I have all the braces at least roughly shaped to the profiles that I want them, at least to the point where I'm ready to do my glue up. So I'll move over to my go bar deck and prepare to glue those up. Okay, I'm ready to do this glue up. One thing you need to be careful of with working with spruce is that it's very soft and it dents very easily. So I've dusted off the base of this cabinet I'm using as a go bar deck, and also made sure the back of, or the top of the guitar was clean so I don't press any little pieces of wood or debris into it and make any dents. I'll also use some cauls on top of these to prevent denting the tops of the braces when I put the go bars on them. So I'll get started here. I want to get enough glue on the bottom of the brace to coat it thoroughly, but not so much that I get a lot of squeeze out that I'm going to have to clean up later. Well, I only got 2 go bars left, so this is all I'm going to be able to glue up right now. I'll have to wait till these dry and go back and finish the rest. So there's the top of the cabinet. There's that. So I'll go ahead and glue this up off camera, and I'll show you what this looks like in our next episode. For woodworking plans, tips, and techniques, visit randallprice.com.